You know what? I think this is a bad recording. I'm going to find a better one. Yes, welcome one, welcome all, welcome to the Tales of Auraxis here on the Sound Strategy Network. I am Bridger. I'll be your host for this evening. What you're hearing is the great Terran Republic music. It's making my ears bleed from oppression. Also joining us from the Terran Republic itself is East Clintwood. Welcome, sir. Wearing the colors, I see.
Yeah, I'm wearing them this week.
I forgot, I'm wearing black, so I guess I'm going with the music here this week. Alright, also with us here is Army Knife from the Vanu Sovereignty.
Yep, not wearing colors either, but you know what? I plan on fixing that soon.
Close enough, we got your colors right here. So welcome everybody, and this is going to be episode number 2, the third episode, but episode number 2 because that's just how we roll. So today we've got a bunch of good stuff to talk about. Glad you got hold of the program, however you may have found it. We do have a podcast feed, which is now available on sound-strategy.net. That's our temporary website right now. I'm hoping to improve it, or we might be moving it, whatever. But for right now, you can find it on sound-strategy.net, down there towards the bottom. I think it's sound-strategy.net/podcast/TOA, but don't quote me on that. Anyway, it's also in the show notes, which you can find on sound-strategy.net. Or if you're watching live, here it is right there in the chat. So, we got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. We've got some after-action reports from the crew. We've got some news and links that came up over the holidays. And we got some tips talking about how you lead a squad, as well as a Bridger rant and a very interesting roundtable on a critique from one of the more popular streamers of Planetside 2. So that's all coming up here in a second. But first, before we go there, let me remind you guys, if you enjoy the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to our Twitch channel here, and tell a friend or two. We're trying to spread the word. We don't want to spam the forums or anything like that, though, so if you can help us out and you enjoy the show, just tell a friend, hey, this is really cool, listen to it on your commute, whatever. It's a good time. So, after action reports, ladies and gentlemen, because we had a pretty awesome fight last week on Wednesday, I believe it was. We had a special hookup with DigiRev, another NC outfit on Waterson, and it wound up being pretty good. Let me open up the map here for you so you can get an idea of exactly what I'm talking about. We actually wound up conquering Amerish that night, if I'm not mistaken. But then again, that was one of the nights where essentially the entire maps were segregated. You had all of NC chilling on Waterson, or all of NC on Waterson chilling on Amerish. All of the TR were on Indar, and all the Vanu were on Esamir, and it's like, why are we not fighting each other? We're fighting the not people. So here we go. Anyway, the Bastion is... Where is the Bastion? Why isn't it listed here? Oh, there it is. There it is. It's in the center. So we had a lot of good fun fighting for the Bastion. This is actually a really cool area to fight over. This, for some reason, is a giant wall. You know what this kind of looks like from this angle? I think
I was thinking that too just then.
You've got a tower, you've got a bridge that acts like the ramp that goes up to Helm's Deep, and then you have a massive, the deeping wall. I never noticed that until I just looked at it now. That is really interesting. Look at the Bastion on the map the next time you guys get a chance if you're not watching the stream or the video here. That is pretty funny. You can't get through there.
Although, I'm pretty sure the Urukai didn't have access to galaxy dropships.
No, they could have just flown right over. That's pretty awesome. I'm 99% sure that was entirely on purpose, too. That's pretty cool. So anyway, this is a really cool area to fight at because of the way that this big wall, it has actually jump pads from one side to the other. So what the enemy was doing was bringing Sunderers over to this end, and then they would access this tower and jump over immediately to the B capture point here. And we had a big, tough fight here along this wall area. Very cool place to fight. And then this whole area down here was being fought over by tanks that were crossing the bridge, and it was a lot of good stuff. And then we fought down to Moss Basin Mine Shaft, which had its own very interesting dynamics because it's very open here, but there's a clump of trees that have very in shadow, and they were the only thing keeping our Sunderer alive because the air was knocking everything else out of the ground. So anyway, that was a really cool fight. Thanks to Digirev for having us join their platoon that night. That was really cool. How did your guys' week go? Anything good happen?
You can take this one.
All right. Nothing super eventful. I was in the middle of moving, but I did take the time to try out the common pool missile launchers that we've recently got in the last set of updates, and tried to give them a fairly thorough amount of usage and figure out what I liked. First off, the Decimator, I wasn't that enthused about.
So what makes the Decimator special? What's it do?
Well, the Decimator it's a higher damage projectile coming out of that missile launcher, but unfortunately you have a much slower projectile speed.
Does it have a lock-on?
It does not have a lock-on.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like the regular dumbfire launcher, more damage,
it's
lower
just got
speed.
a lot more oomph. Yeah. So it's but it was really sad when I go to shoot it, and then the mag rider I'm shooting it at just casually sidesteps without any amount of effort. So kind of disheartening. I had a little bit better success against the Vanguards, but with the slow projectile speed, it just wasn't able to put damage on target accurately enough, especially at long range, where that extra second or two of flight time really makes a difference. So it's, all in all, I was kind of underwhelmed with it. Other people may like it. That's just my personal opinion. Now, conversely, the Annihilator I was absolutely in love with because it locks both air and ground, and that means I can, even though it takes several rockets to kill an aircraft, you can lock them when they're chasing down a friendly aircraft and they panic and freak out and pop flares and fly away. And that right there is just worth its
Is that an anti-air missile?
Entertainment.
Air to air?
Exactly.
Oh my God.
They don't
It's an
know if they're
air-to-air?
getting followed, and just for that alone, it's worth its weight in gold just for entertainment value. But you can also do that to ground, and so where you can shoot at those pesky strafing mag riders or the Vanguards that are hull down behind the hill and at a good angle, and you can hit them. So I was really impressed with that one. So I was very happy with that.
You know
so that was
what's even more impressive? If you get an entire squad to buy the and then a single plane comes over and the squad leader says, "Shoot the Liberator," and 12 missiles go leaping up at it and annihilate it in 2 seconds.
That's beautiful.
That works really well, apparently.
We run with carrying anti-ground rockets, and I have to say that as far as the Decimator, I absolutely love the Decimator because I don't have to shoot mag riders, but it is wonderful for sneaking up on Vanguard or Prowler. Vanguards especially, though, because they're usually so slow, and we just I've annihilated them because you just pull out the Decimator and hit the rear armor, and the Vanguard, who's not used to taking a ton of damage, suddenly lost like a third or half of its health, and they freak out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's excellent against those kinds of tanks, and we the Black Square will run all anti-ground rockets, sometimes just dumbfires because of the huge damage output, get up close to tanks. I actually had a great fight against a Vanguard, I believe, where I ran up with the Decimator, popped this thing in the side, and it turned freaking out to start shooting at me. Meanwhile, I had a squad mate who actually ran to the right of me around the side of the tank, but we killed the tank because he was able to flank it with the nice distraction. Although we actually had a good fight at the Bastion as well. Although I should say the good fight didn't happen at the Bastion. It happened not at Moss. I think either Moss Basin or the basin north of Moss Basin. But what was so cool is we have a fantastic Galaxy pilot who has perfected the art of halo drops with galaxies, or not even halo drops, but he'll just go to flight ceiling, nose down completely, go full speed, and then have everybody eject so we inherit all that momentum.
Wait a minute. He Stuka dive bombs with people.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And so we just slam into the base at high speed, perfectly on target, and we just start killing people. But then we retreat. This is when the NC was taking ambush. I don't know if it was Wednesday night or Thursday night, but you guys were taking ambush. And so we fell back to Moss Base and ended up, or the next area, and ended up holding off for quite a while just because we were able to put up some burster maxes on the roof to do some air denial. And then once your tanks are started coming in, we just pulled out all of our C4 and other explosives, and anti-tank mines are the absolute best, because a lot of tank drivers are not used to them being used, and they're sort of underutilized at this point.
It's taken a while. I actually every single time I get killed by a mine, I'm completely surprised. Like, what is that doing there? What's going on? Like, we were fighting over a biolab. Let me think. Where was it? Ickenham biolab here on Amerish. And I actually remember exactly where it was. We had control of the northwest satellite station, and then the southwest and the northeast were under control. So I had under enemy control. So I had our squad using the jump pads to go to the northwest station, and then because it's got vehicle pads there, so we were trying to go out and attack these with vehicles. I jumped in a flash, and I like dodged mag riders and prowlers, and because it was like a three-way fight here, so I was like bobbing, weaving with my flash, and I made it all the way over to the bridge, and then just got killed by a mine. I'm like, really? I had shots and shells flying past my face, and then I get killed by a stupid mine after that. All that, like, I was feeling like a badass 007 kind of maneuver situation there. I mean, it was mostly luck, but it was still awesome feeling, as if I was the one doing all that dodging and not just luck. But yeah.
There one more great story from that same night, or a different night against the NC, when you guys were taking Amherst. It was the end of the night. Most of the Vanu had left because they were like, okay, we can't do anything on Amherst. There's no reason to defend, so we'll give up, and we'll have a last stand at Ickenham because it was the most defensible location that we had. Didn't matter much because you guys just max rushed the hell out of us. But there's this great maneuver. I was piloting the Galaxy, and I'm like, there's only 5 of us total in this thing, so all 4 of the guns are manned, and I'm like, fuck it, we're going to a biolab, might as well use this battle Galaxy. So I charge it into the middle of the anti-air. We start taking some damage. We don't really do a whole lot of hits. Then we start getting locked by everybody, shot everybody, so I'm like, okay, screw this, fly back to the biolab. And as I'm doing that, 2 Reavers are hot in pursuit. So I'm like, all right, let's see how close these guys are. Nose up completely, hit the vertical thrust, try to get them to slam into the back of my Galaxy. One of them goes over and then back onto line. The other one goes under and back into line, except they both went into the same line and they hit each other and exploded.
Well, that's one way to do it, I suppose.
I wish there was Raps footage of that, because I would have loved just to see it.
Well, speaking of footage, I do have this, which you may or may not have seen. No, never mind. It was going to be a really cool transition. There we go. So.
God damn it.
Just killed a scythe. There we go. Oh, scythe's landing for repairs. I'm gonna sit on him.
Oh god.
Sit on his head like a fat man.
I'm gonna sit on his head. I wanna watch this.
Crunch!
This is apparently the way that you get kills with Galaxies.
God, he's not impressed.
The guy was stranded on the ground after that. Like, he was repairing, and all of a sudden his plane got sat on. He's in the middle of the desert. What does he do? He just shoots it with his gun. Now he's stranded.
Rage about Dreadnought.
So apparently this guy, I mean, there's a lot more to the video here, but it's pretty hilarious. There's a link in the show notes there, and I have to say, this is one of the funniest videos I've seen because he uses the high G airframe for the Galaxy, which you'd think, why the hell would anybody ever get tight turns on a Galaxy? Who the hell cares? It's because as soon as they come near him when they're doing a run to try and shoot at him, he quickly spins his wings so they wind up crashing into that when they meant to fly straight up. Taken out. It's very effective, apparently. At least this video would make you believe that. So, very cool. That was, let's see, posted to Triumph 117's YouTube video channel. So, that's very cool. I gotta try that myself. What else are Galaxies good for?
Besides the, Stuka dive bomb with 12 people.
Yeah, besides that.
Efficient pizza delivery.
Which, by the way, the other great thing is to Rabbit, who's our pilot, is amazing because not only was he able to Stuka dive bomb with the Galaxy, but he also hopped out himself and got it disassembled before it crashed or anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Got it disassembled? Oh, okay, that's right. I wish that thing actually did something. I'm not sure still what that does. It actually, you know what it looks like when you disassemble it? It looks like it disappears from the Matrix. I wonder if this whole fight, like, they're trying to tell us something.
Oh, I just posted a video to you, by the way, in the same vein as that galaxy of one of the best uses of a scythe I've ever seen.
Oh, there we go. We lost everybody's picture here. That's fantastic. There we go. The best uses of a scythe. So presumably this is an abnormal use of a scythe.
Oh yeah, it helps because it's so wide flat.
This is the one where he uses it like a lawnmower.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Why isn't it shifting? Hang on.
There we go.
No, it's not.
I'm seeing it on...
Okay, now it's showing up. Looks like Skype is just behind the times. Alright, that's fine. There we go. Kill, roadkill bonus, kill, roadkill bonus, kill, max kill bonus, kill streak bonus, roadkill bonus. He must have killed at least 6 guys in a max there. That's pretty awesome. Yep. I remember seeing that.
If you don't have a lot of anti-air, don't stay on those landing pads.
Yes. This is about right. At least, it's at night, though. The Vanu come at night, mostly.
Mostly.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. So, let us move on to the next topic here. Good news, everyone. Apparently, according to Higby, a Twitter post from, I think it was last week, 2 weeks ago, lots of people have been asking for numerical stats for weapons instead of the stat bars. We will be doing that in the new year.
Hooray! That leaves a whole year.
Exactly. I was like, I'm not going to get
anytime now.
Really excited about this. He set himself a deadline for 360 days from now. So, yeah. We'll see when that comes about. Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Imagine that the numbers are just as arbitrary as the bars.
It says 32 rounds per minute. What does that... I have 32 rounds in a clip, and I get out of that in 5 seconds. Yes, but by minute, we mean Vanu minute, which is shorter than a normal minute, but we don't know how long. So... But on this weapon, we're using Terran Republic minutes. And on this weapon, we're using Valve time. Yeah, that could easily be the case. I should see that coming. Here's hoping they build an actual tooltip system that looks into the files, the mechanic files that actually determine what happens in the game, rather than just having a set of tooltips that are written by people separately so that every patch they get a different broken tooltip every time. Ugh, that's never fun. All right, so not a lot of news or links for the past couple weeks that were super important or interesting. We got one that we're going to be talking about later in the show, but if you have any feedback or any suggestions for future topics, any links to topics that you think should be covered on the show, send them to us. You can send it to us at admin, A-D-M-I-N, at sound-strategy.net. So we need to go on to a very important topic here. One which cannot be properly described without a little background music, really, is I guess the best way to look at it. So, ladies and gentlemen, every once in a while, I get a little angry. And when I get angry, I've got to vent. And when I vent, it's called a Bridger Rant. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, today what I'm going to talk to you about is the Squad Leader chat. Now, a lot of you may not know much about the Squad Leader chat. It costs 100 certs to get it from the Squad Leader certification tree. If you don't plan on leading squads that much, maybe you don't have it. That's okay. You're the lucky ones. Because I have to sit there and listen to the bickering that happens on the Squad Leader chat. What's more, it's all 3 continents on one chat channel. We have people on Amerish telling people on Indar to get their asses over to Amerish because Amerish is more important than Indar. And we have people on Esamir telling the people on Amerish that they're stupid and that Indar is less important than all 3 of them. And Esamir is actually the most important because it has these resources, or it's got a tech plant that they're almost going to get and they just need more people. Who the hell cares? What do you... There's nothing more important than anything else. It's a sandbox game. There's literally no goal. You cannot make any logical arguments. They try so hard, though. But they try to point out that Amerish is more fun to play on, and that means we should be fighting on Amerish. Or that Indar is where everybody is, so we need to put up a presence, otherwise we're going to lose all of Indar. Who the hell cares? Give me a freaking victory condition, and I'll start arguing with you over what's the most important. Right now, it's so arbitrary, it makes my head hurt when these things happen. And Sony, please break this up by continent, because the command channel is sometimes really useful for organizing stuff. But you know what? It's not always really useful, because if I'm on Amerish and we're organizing with other outfits over this voice command channel, that can be really useful. And then it turns out that Indar are breaking into our conversation to talk about their own intercontinent organization. Ugh. Then it's useless. Command channel only works when one continent is using it. You know, that may be why all 3 factions go to a different continent. I think I've solved it. There you go. You solve command channel, you solve the game.
You know, incidentally, I think that was less a rant about command channel and more a rant about the NC command channel. Because our command channel is relatively organized.
But the command channel itself, I still think, would be way better if it was split up by continent.
The only issue I see with that is organizing across continents. If there really is a need to hold on to a specific base to keep your continent bonus, then communicating is difficult.
Then they could make a second command channel for cross-continent bonus.
Then that would be like 300 certs.
Yeah, well, probably would.
Gentlemen, let me sum up the TR command channel for you. Everyone to the crown. That is it in a nutshell.
I think it's just the types of players who come to the factions, because Vanu tends to do pretty well by themselves. I mean, we do have some argument. The VoIP command channel can get really annoying.
That's what I'm talking about specifically.
Usually, you'll have someone who goes, "Hey guys, I need a lot of help over here." I'm like, or he's complaining about something like, "Guys, don't spam the command channel." What do you mean spam the command channel? I'm not spamming the command channel. Oh, you're spamming the command channel.
Exactly.
Like, both of you, shut the hell up.
It just gets so terrible when they try to use logic and reason to tell you what fight is more important than what other fight, when really the fight that you're in is apparently more important to you. But there's no reason. It makes my head hurt. Please give us a goal. All right. It's week number 16 here at Planetside 2. Still no victory condition. I'm Walter Cronkite. Good night. There you go.
It's like World War I. In space.
In space.
Slightly less trenches.
Slightly less trenches. All right, while we're talking about the command channel, let's talk about tips of the week here, the squad leader specific tips. Let's talk about that. So do you guys do a lot of leading of squads, or you mostly just follow around other people?
I do a fair amount of squad leading. It's one of my official positions within the outfit. Here's the biggest tip I can give you. Definitely get the spawn beacon. If you're doing any leading whatsoever, you need that spawn beacon cert. Because not only is it useful for prolonged assaults where you may lose your forward bases and your AMSs, it's also possibly the fastest way to get across the map. If your commander just takes a scythe out, goes down to a base, drops a command beacon, you can suddenly have a whole 11 people drop podding onto an area, which can also, kill galaxies.
and then you move one of those people to Bravo, and you kill him and res him, and then he can put his own... No, I don't know if that works.
Oh, no, you don't need to do that anymore. People get the spawn beacons as soon as they become squad leader.
We saw that happening a couple weeks ago, but we tried to do it like a couple days ago, and it stopped working. I don't know if they patched it so that it doesn't do that anymore.
No, that's the way it should be, I think. And it's been working for me. It worked as of last night, I believe, or the night before.
The fight that I'm talking about, where we were fighting for the Bastion, we specifically tried... I made somebody squad leader specifically so they could drop a squad beacon where they were, because they were behind enemy lines and we wanted to drop in on them, and they didn't get it. And then they tried to send it back to me so I could do the same thing, and I didn't get it. So maybe it was either bugged or they fixed it and fixed it back. I don't know, but it didn't work for us for sure.
Yeah,
anyway,
that'll require some science.
Yes, It would require some science. Stand back. So yes, definitely spawn beacon, #1 thing. If you're leading a squad, spawn beacon is your backup. It's your jump-in entry to a point, especially if you grab a bunch of infiltrators and then spawn an AMS later. Like you said, it's a very good point, especially if you can drop from space and put your spawn beacon on the very top of the crown. That's apparently the ideal location, as far as I can tell. Also... From my point of view, the best squad leader is one that keeps the squad focused on a specific objective and keeps the squad together, because a squad that's running in multiple directions is useless. If you're attacking a tech plant, or let's say an amp station, for example, there's a ton of different sub-objectives there. Camping their spawn, getting to the vehicle shields, getting to the regular shields, getting to the other regular shields, getting inside. Once you're inside, do you go for the shields? Do you go for the area towards their spawn? Do you kill the Sunderer? There's tons of different things to do. You, as the squad leader, need to be speaking every 20 seconds, making sure that everybody knows where they're going. It needs to be something like, all right, push towards the building to the north and hold there until we're all there. Then when everybody gets in the building and you've got it secured, then you say, all right, we're going to move out to the west and take the vehicle shields. Get ready? Okay, I want odds to stay here, evens go out. Odds cover the evens, here we go. And then once the evens get across the road to the next building, then odds whatever. You just got to keep talking. You keep everybody organized. If somebody starts wandering off in a different direction, you say, hey, green 9, get back with the group. And if they don't listen to you, you kick them out of the squad. It's that simple. This is how you make an effective squad, is one that listens to directions and not one that just goes off on their own thing and says, I think I know better. You know, because even if that guy is right and, okay, he sees a Sunderer that needs to get taken care of, the appropriate thing and the more effective thing to do is to tell the squad leader, hey, I spotted their Sunderer, we can take it out. And the squad leader can then give everybody the order to go take it out with him, instead of him going off by himself and getting killed after throwing one rocket out. So that's my big thing, is the squad leader needs to constantly be talking and keeping the squad organized. Because if you only say, all right, guys, the target is the vehicle shields, and then people stream in one by one, it's useless. You have to tell them to wait. That's the most important thing of a squad leader to me, is tell them to wait.
For those of you that really haven't led a squad, especially if you've got an open squad, it's very akin to herding cats. You have to constantly, and I mean constantly, be reminding everyone what they're supposed to be doing. So Bridger's 100% on there, just constantly, as a squad leader, stay vocal. If you're not worn out by the end of a day of leading the squad, you were doing it wrong. It is definitely quite an effort.
Now, to that end, though, you're not supposed to be a douchebag about it. You should be, all right, guys, wait at that location, because if we're all there, then you'll get rezzed by a medic if you die, instead of you going ahead and dying and respawning and going ahead and dying. That's how I see it. I try to explain to people that way, and they tend to listen more often than not, is let's fight as a group, guys. And I wish that there was some kind of bonus to your XP, like a 25% bonus XP for any action you do within range of a squad member. And more XP bonuses if you're in range of more squad members. I feel like that would really help.
The problem is that would make too much sense.
This is a Sony game we're speaking about here, gentlemen.
Yeah. I mean, that was only taken care of in Battlefield 2 back in, like, 2006. They only implemented that mechanic to great success.
There was actually a game, a Half-Life 1 mod, that did this way back in the day. It was called Frontline Force. And it was a really cool mod, because one of the things it did is if you were alone, your accuracy and speed and recoil would decrease. And your reload speed and other things, because the idea is if your character is alone, their morale is going to be much lower. They don't have the safety net of their buddies backing them up. Less able to hit things. But if you have 2 or 3 of your teammates with you in a small area around you, you actually performed better because you were more confident about what you were about to do. And that mechanic really encouraged a strong team play element in that game. It was really cool, and I wish more games would put that in, whether it's by XP boost by being near squad members or actual mechanical benefits of being near squad members. I think that would really help a lot. And we'll get a lot more towards focusing more on team play when we get to the roundtable discussion. All right. Any other thoughts? I've got a couple more. I just want to give you guys a chance if you have any other good tips.
Yeah, when you're leading a squad, if it's an open squad, make sure you're not using, like, if you're part of an outfit, we have a lot of strategies that we have names for, you know, like football or anything else, where you'll have a game plan. You'll say, okay, guys.
42!
Yeah, it's like, okay, guys, we're all doing, you know, xenophobe B, whatever. If you have a name for it, try to refrain from using those if you're leading an open squad, because, of course, they're not going to know what the hell you're talking about, especially if you see a lot of new people. Like, what we were doing the very first day of release was having an open squad just to teach people the game and teach them how to be team players, because I still think that's lacking. And if you want to recruit for an outfit, this is the best way to recruit for your outfits, to run open squads and teach people how to play. Because if you're just running with the Zerg or general open squads, they tend not to teach you how to play on a team and work together for objectives. And so just be an educator in addition to a leader.
That's very useful.
Yeah, to kind of extrapolate on that, it's really important that when you are squad leading, that you're not just saying do this. Try and if you've got a spare second between us, explain why you're giving that order so other people will understand. I want you to go take that building because it gives a better angle of fire down on the point where we're going to have people. So try and toss that in there. It'll help people become better players, and eventually, you know, they will hopefully become better squad leaders, and they will be able to also lead people more effectively for the good of the faction.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And the last point I think that I can think of that's really important is if you're on the attack, let's say, and you've got a Sunderer that is, you know, outside of a tower or whatever, and you're trying to take the tower, and there's some heavy defense. What you want to do, if you have a squad that's disciplined enough to do it, is instruct your squad members that if they die, their new job becomes defending the Sunderer until there are at least 3 or 4 of them. Then they can move out. The worst thing that you can have happen to a squad or a platoon that's attacking a tower is to have them stream in from the Sunderer one at a time, and then that gives a clear direction of, hey, Sunderer's over here, guys, and then nobody sees the light assault coming over and just blowing up the Sunderer, and then you're completely SOL, game over, start again from scratch. So if you can get your squad to understand that when you die, your job is defend the Sunderer and then move in as a group, that is way more useful and way more effective than streaming in one at a time and nobody defends the Sunderer ever. So I feel like that's a very useful thing to do as a squad member, a squad leader when you're attacking, is try to get that across to people.
And another thing with that is not only when you're trickling in one at a time are you revealing the location of your AMS, but you're also, it's so much easier for the collective defenders to just pick off that one person. But when there's 4 or 5 guys rushing, bouncing between cover, odds are several of you will make it there. Plus you've got the overlap, hopefully a medic, things like that would really change the outcome of the attack, where when you're trickling in one at a time, you're not going to be able to perform much. So that's another thing to keep in mind.
And I'll point out the dirty little secret of Planetside 2. You may not know it, but points are irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. The only thing that matters is spawn locations. That is the #1 important thing. As a squad leader, your goal should almost always be revolving around spawn locations, whether it's moving your spawn location closer or destroying the enemy's spawn location. Those are your 2 goals, because that's what wins a battle at a location. It's not holding the point so much as holding the spawn, because if you control the spawn, you control who's on the point. That's pretty much the long and the short of it there. So that's kind of your guiding light as a squad leader, is think, am I going to be on the attack or on the defense? Am I trying to push my spawn closer or push their spawn back? And one of those 2 things is what your squad should be working towards. Very, very important.
Yep, and it's like I said before about the spawn bacon, as we call it. Having that spawn bacon ready to transport a bunch of guys within 10 seconds anywhere on the map. It's an amazing rapid response, especially if your squad is holding a point to capture that location and you know where you're going next. As a squad leader, you should say, okay, I don't need those capture points. I need to get the spawn beacon down so that when that base flips, we can be where we need to be instantly.
Absolutely. All right, so let's move on to the Roundtable this week, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very interesting one that has gotten quite a few thousand views on the official forums, I think. Here it is in its full glory. The thread written by BuzzcutPsycho, which, love him or hate him, he's one of the top TR players in the game right now, according to the leaderboards anyway. He's definitely one of the top streamers. A lot of people watch his streams, and say what you want about the guy, he has some very interesting criticisms, which I agree with a considerable number of. So the first thing that I want to talk to you guys about is he points out that kill-death ratio, the emphasis on kill-death ratio in the statistics, is a big problem. Now, he establishes two reasons for this. One is that if it's displayed prominently in the statistics pane, players will obsess over it more than actually completing an objective and taking a point or killing a Splunderer or what have you. And the other thing that he points out is because kills give you the most certifications faster, that this puts a further emphasis on the kill-death ratio, because when you're dead, you can't get any XP, and if kills give you the best XP, that means you shouldn't bother killing that Sunderer. Instead, you should wait and farm the guys who are coming out of it. Or the same thing is true of a spawn location, what have you. So, what do you guys think of this first point that he makes about kill-death ratio and stats? East, does he have a point, or is he just talking smoke here?
I strongly feel he does have a point, and it goes back to what you were saying, what you guys were saying. As a squad leader, the dirty secret is it's all about spawn locations, and because whoever has a spawn location has the point. It's counterproductive because people are going to sit there and to get points, to get certs, to make their character better. They're not going to knock out the enemy spawn location. They're going to sit there with high explosive rounds and farm it for as long as the enemy continues to use it, rather than knocking out the spawn and advancing, taking the point, and continuing to map dominance, because there is no point in map dominance. The only point right now in the game is to get as many points as fast as possible, even though they do nothing for you. Yeah. So that's why I agree with it.
All right. Army Knife, thoughts?
Yeah, I think that he raises a really good point, which is I'm a little embarrassed I didn't notice it myself sooner when we were doing all the discussions, which is the user interface matters a huge amount in the not just conveying the information, but in conveying what information is important. And the fact that KDR is right there, and I myself was disappointed in the beginning of the game, and I just kind of got used to it, but when I was first playing in beta, there was no points healed. I mean, even WoW in PvP arenas has points healed as a thing. So you can say, okay, I wasn't a healing character, or I wasn't a fighter character, didn't have the most kills, but how well did I do on healing my teammates? Oh, I was number one. Awesome. I did a good job of being in a support role. But he's right that the game's emphasis through the user interface is unfortunately focused on combat roles, which is not actually necessarily the most fun role to play. You can have a whole lot of fun being a medic. It's just not encouraged through the UI.
Now, Magor88 actually hit on something I was going to talk about later, but it rolls sort of into the same discussion. He says kill-death ratio is the symptom of the problem, not the problem itself. The problem is that kills get you the most certs, and the game is a cert grind. He's kind of trailing it down to what the main thing is. And I think that his point is that the game is a cert grind is the most legitimate thing here. That's the core root problem, is that people care about certs more than anything else, because A, there's nothing else to care about. There's no objective short of continent locking, which you can't do unless you have 50% of the population anyway. So it comes down to, when you log in, get the most certs possible, because people like new stuff. So to me, and my understanding is they had to put a cert cap in for specific things, like resurrections. You can only do 10 or so medic reses within a certain time period before it just stops giving you XP. And I think the reason for that is that you saw people that had set up bots where you'd have one eye on there would be 3 bots. You'd have, actually, you don't even need a bot for the third one. You have 2 bots and an empty character sitting there doing nothing. The TR bot shoots the Banu bot, and then a third one, a medic, just automatically reses it. And then the guy shoots him again, and then he automatically reses it. And now the TR character and the Vanu character that's rezzing are getting tons of XP, and they just leave their computer and come back later, and they got thousands of certs because they sit there farming the XP off in the corner somewhere. I saw a video of this that somebody caught, just somebody way on the edge of the map with 3 characters all just, you know, killing and rezzing the same character over and over again. So you got to ask yourself, why are your players doing this? You've designed a game that encourages a player to essentially write a robot to do their job. That doesn't seem like it's smart game design to me. That seems like that's the problem. You're encouraging your players to grind, which means they're having less fun than they should be having. That's kind of where I'm coming from, is if you didn't have to grind so much, then there wouldn't be as much emphasis on kills and certifications. I don't know necessarily how to fix it. I just know it's wrong right now. I'm not trying to propose that I have the complete solution. The ridiculous prices on weapons might be a good place to start, if you ask me. But the number of certifications you need for anything probably could just go down by 50%. And to put this into perspective, and I actually was going to save this for a different show, but it actually kind of rolls into here. Somebody on PC Gamer here, Evan Lathi, decided to do the math. How much would Planetside 2 cost if you bought everything? If you buy all the weapons, only the weapons, it costs $327. And if you buy the items, the cosmetic items, that's another $375. So, Sony has valued their game in its completeness at $700? Does that sound right to you as a player? Is this game worth $700?
Well, I don't know. How much is League of Legends worth?
I would argue that League of Legends feels like a complete game with a third of their champions. This game doesn't feel complete necessarily unless you have all the ESF weapons, all of the Vanguard options, all of the everything, because the champions are self-contained packages. If you have one for every role, you're actually in a place where you could play the game in its completeness. I don't feel like I could play the game in its completeness unless I have the grenades unlocked for every infantry character, C4 unlocked for every infantry character, the right scope that I want for every infantry character on the right weapon, and I also want all the options for every vehicle because I want to be able to go in and play whatever was needed for at the time. So anyway, maybe I'm just a weird generalist and this is a game for specialists. I mean, we've covered that before, but I just thought that $700 is absurd for the complete game.
And you know what I do have to say about this point, though, which is I would be okay with the vehicle or the weapons for vehicles and infantry keeping their prices, but the certs to upgrade these things needs to go down.
Let me clarify. What I just gave you was a single faction's cost. Those were the costs for the VS vehicle weapons are 14,600 station cash, and the VS infantry weapons are 18,100 station cash. If you purchase them individually, he said it totals up to $327. So yeah, that is a little absurd. And I think, actually, when we get down to BuzzcutPsycho's further points, it kind of ties into this. So anyway, we talked about kill-death ratio. Any final thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm with him in that there needs to be more emphasis on support and objective capturing. Like, if you made kills worth a tenth of what they're worth now and bases worth 10 times as much, I'm sure you'd see much more metagame going on.
Absolutely.
You'd see less farming of the crown and way more base capturing. And I also liked his point that he made, buried somewhere in there, that in Planetside 1, the amount of points rewarded for a base were determined by how many people are fighting over it. So it encouraged you to get involved with the larger scale battles. Now, with the way the engine handles those large scale battles, I wouldn't necessarily make the system entirely dependent on that, because then you're running into issues of, you know, you're not seeing people 30 feet in front of you because it's a massive battle and everybody's having to, the game groaning under the weight of it. But for major bases like tech plants, maybe not do that, to maybe give them a fixed cert limit, but for the towers, absolutely make all the towers and the more minor bases have variable degrees of bonus.
I don't know. To me, I think it works perfectly if you say that if you capture, let's say, a small super minor base, you get 200% of all the XP that, because it already tracks battles, right? It knows when a battle is triggered. If you hold the tab key, it'll show you that it tracks a battle. So when it first triggers a battle at a point, if you as the defenders, or let's say as the attackers, manage to win the battle and capture the point, a very small base would give you 200% of all the XP that you earned while fighting in that battle. And then a medium-sized tower would give you maybe 400% of all the XP, and then a major base would give you 600% of all the XP that you personally made while getting that base. Now, that system only works if they fix the XP system to reward the right kind of stuff, like we were just talking about, rewarding support roles, rewarding the people sitting in the flak cannon chasing away the AA that don't get any actual XP for that because they don't shoot down the plane, but they still force it away to protect their teammates. That's a very important role that doesn't get any XP. So once you fix the XP system, then you can have the bases give you a bonus based on your contribution, essentially.
And you know what? Bring back the defense XP. It was in for a little while in beta, but bring back XP for a battle ending when you're a defender, and you'll see more people defending.
Yep,
that's actually what I was going to interject with, is right now there is no reason to defend any base at all because you get more rewards losing it, letting the enemy cap it, and then taking it from them, because then they're defending it, you get to farm them for kills, and you get the points for capturing it. So there isn't much of an incentive to defend. So if they would add some kind of experience for that, like some sort of a bonus for holding it by using tracked battle stats that we just talked about, I think that would change a lot of the way the whole fighting and capping system goes.
Yeah, and let's put, and this is sort of where he talks about encourage fighting and discourage ghost capping. Now, I don't know about discouraging ghost capping. I think if you want to say the goal of the game is to take over a continent, you shouldn't tell people you get no points for capping an empty place. To me,
right.
that's I actually disagree with him there. I don't think you should get as many points as if you fought a large, drawn-out fight at a tech plant that took an hour and a half, but in the end, your side finally took it. You should get a bunch of points for that, because in that same time, you could have ghost capped like 6 places and gotten maybe the same amount of XP, right? So I think ghost capping should be worth less, but it shouldn't be worthless. You know?
Right, and I agree, because ghost capping is actually one of the best ways to rapidly take territory, especially against an enemy that has a larger population. I know what we'll do, the Vanu in general, is we'll have our major point battles, but then we'll ghost cap everything else and basically end up with more variable spawn locations and a greater variety of territory, so whichever faction we're fighting is left without, their amp station. Like if they're stuck at a tech plant they're fighting over, for instance on Indar, or they're stuck mostly at, say, the Crown or something like that, and we have capped all the way up to Dahaka, we'll just take Dahaka from them, which is one of their major bastions in the north for the TR. And so if they lose that, and we can suddenly get all of our population in there, that's a huge advantage. And I don't think strategic metagaming should be discouraged. And that's what I felt like a fair bit of his post, including the ghost capping, would do, is it would discourage actual strategy to the metagame.
Yep, and let's see, what else is he talking about here? There's no tangible benefit for defending bases. I think he's definitely true here. And then he goes on to talk about the capture mechanics, specifically the way that bases capture. And he doesn't like the influence system, and I have to agree with him. To me, I really want there to be a reason to go and capture the things around a tech plant, for example, to make it worthwhile. Right now, it's an insignificant, slight boost in time, but nobody wants to leave the tech plant fight to go get those other little bases lying around it, because A, you're losing out on the kill XP that's going on at the tech plant, because you get a lot more kill XP when you're in the middle of that heat of battle than in the traveling time of getting XP, but maybe getting pushed back. And at the same time, if you leave the tech plant area and it caps when you're out trying to secure the outside surrounding things, you get screwed out of the XP that you fought a big battle for. So again, this ties back into you should be rewarded for your contribution to a battle, even if you leave it midway. If your team still comes up because you go to capture the surrounding areas to cut off reinforcements, you should still get reimbursed for that, I think. And what I would love to see, I think something easy enough to do, instead of having the influence system determine the speed of capture, I would like to see the influence system determine the speed of spawning. I say any sunderers or spawn points located within a given area are subject to the influence you have in that area. If you have 100% influence, then it spawns at the normal speeds it's at now, maybe a little less even, because most areas are not going to be, full speed. But then if you have like only 5% influence, then the spawn time could go up of 10 or 11 seconds. It doesn't have to be extreme. It could just be a very small amount. But when you multiply that by many people, it could make a very significant impact. And if you are completely cut off, I would say that spawn time goes up to 20, 25 seconds at least. Over a period of a few minutes. So if you get completely cut off over 5 minutes, every 5 minutes the spawn time goes up by 10 seconds until it reaches a specific max. That would actually make it so that, okay, we're having a really hard time taking this tech plant because the defenders are dug in really hard. Let's send a couple squads to completely surround the plant and cut it off from its warp gate. Now we have a tangible, real chance of taking this if the defenders take 30 seconds to spawn every time they die.
Hey, you know what? Here's another, the converse of that, too, which is, I think defenders should gain a bonus XP for the amount of territory surrounding, which encourages their faction, at the least, to go and cap everything around it back so that their defenders not only have the spawn timers, but they'll gain more XP even than the attackers, even if they lose.
That's true. That'd be interesting.
Or actually, no, not if they lose, but if they win. I'm sorry. So that way,
so if you win as a defender and you have 90% of the influence, you get more bonus than if you win with only 5% influence. Is that
exactly? Yeah. So if you dedicated everything to holding that one base and you lost everything around it, you shouldn't be rewarded as much. Your faction should. That would encourage overall territory holding, as opposed to just letting everything else go just to hold that one tech plant.
That's an interesting way to look at it. So yeah, he has a bunch of different solutions. He says that just get rid of the whole influence thing, and just make the times be static based on the size of the base. Because he points out, people say, but then you have to wait too long. He points out that everybody's already waiting. There's already tons of people waiting. There's points where people don't even want to wait for the 6 people on the cap because you have to sit there for literally 10 minutes. While everybody else farms the spawn and you get no XP for it. That's pretty lame as well. He also goes to talk about the layouts of the bases and that the biolabs are the only defensible locations. What do you think about that?
Well, the crown is clearly more defensible than a biolab.
I guess that's true.
But
put everything way up on a hill.
And you know what? There are some areas that I think are pretty defensible. Like Quartz Ridge is very defensible. That's another area that can be defended fairly well. The problem, and I agree though that towers don't seem like very good static defense points. They just don't, and that's true for a number of other static defenses that exist. In addition to his problems with the buildings and their number of entry points, I'm okay with some of the buildings the way they are, with 2 entry points that forces you to watch your back and not be alone. But I would also, irony, I'd like to point out that he's complaining about tanks shooting HE cannons at infantry when the TR are the worst about that. Because they can deploy and get all that rapid bonus to fire speed and reload speed, and that's their main strategy right now for taking any location. For the TR is just deploy prowlers and pound away at the building.
Any window, you start putting HE rounds in it. And
yep. So the TR are the worst at that because of the way their tanks are set up.
I agree with you and with what BuzzcutPsycho says in this thread that the buildings in real life, allow infantry to project firepower around the building, especially multi-story buildings give you much ability to get into a window and project firepower. In this game, it's so easy to see people in windows, and the proliferation of HE, both grenades, as he points out, and tanks really cause a bit of an issue for that. But I don't think the solution is closing up all the windows and the doors, as his solution is, because then you still can't put any firepower out.
Yep.
I feel like the windows should have something in them. You know, in real life we have glass, but maybe in there they have some kind of a force field that only lets you shoot out. But maybe if the force field absorbs enough damage, then it goes down for a time. And then...
Or you know what? Here's an idea. Why not just go back to the medieval era and have arrow slits so that HE rounds can't make it in?
There you go.
Or barred windows so that HE rounds...
There we go with that advanced technology again.
But you can still shoot out, and you can still get shot in, because one of the nice things about the whole, infantry take cover in buildings because they can project fire in games, at least, is that you can shoot back at them and kill them. If they're invulnerable, like hiding behind this giant force field and all shooting at you, that's no fun for the people on the outside. But if you have like the barred windows or thin slits that allow infantry to fight over the location, but not vehicles, that makes much more sense, especially if you design the buildings such that the infantry do not have to be standing with their face pressed up against the window just to take shots. If you can fire from back inside the building, like you're supposed to if you're a sniper, then that makes it much, much more viable.
I like that buildings are useful to heavy infantry, too, to punish tanks, because tanks are not supposed to be really gods amongst buildings. There's that's sort of a balancing thing about tanks. If they get too close to infantry, infantry's supposed to win the fight. And I like the fact that when there is a ton of buildings around, a tank has to be very careful because it could get hit from any angle. Problem is, if every window is one of those kind of small slits, then you can't project any anti-tank power out there at all. So I would like there to be some kind of compromise between all of that. Maybe some windows that are like that, some that aren't.
I'll give you a compromise, and it's also really high-tech. You go on the roof and you put crenulations.
Crenulations, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
We'll just have medieval castles everywhere on Auraxis.
And with boiling hydrochloric acid or plasma.
Yeah.
Over the doors.
Plasma.
The TR would just use bullet casings. Boiled bullet casings.
Hot brass.
Yes.
That would be great. All right, so... And the NC would use chocolate because it burns people and it's freedom, or something. So, anyway, that's an interesting point. Like I said, I don't agree with him with just closing up the windows. I think that defeats the purpose of what he was talking about originally.
Doors too. I mean, it's true that some locations need to have only one entrance, but having the capacity to flank in some way. I mean, I like what he said with balconies, which there you go. There's your solution for getting HE rounds down is more balconies. Arrow slits on the main building and then balconies everywhere else, is so that you can get light assaults in, which is an interesting way of putting it. And it actually, if you think about it, then makes grenades more used the way that they are in real life to clear out buildings, where you can toss the grenade up into the balcony to clear out that area, or send light assaults in with grenades to clear out below. So
even if you just had shields that were like anti-explosive on some of them, and like sort of the firing holes that you're talking about on other ones, I think that would be a really good compromise. Anyway, that is probably never going to happen because they'd have to redo every single... Wait a minute, though. They reuse the same buildings over and over again. They probably only have to change 10 of them to change the whole map. Planetside chivalry, says Magor88. Shooty slits. That's right, shooty slits. All right, so the other thing that he suggested was no deploy zones for AMS should be added to the insides of bases. I think that's actually not a bad idea. No deploy zones around the capture zone itself might not be a bad idea. It might require some other changes, but I think that would probably overall be better for the game. What do you guys think?
I think that would make it a little more fluid. It is pretty tough to crack certain tech plants and such when there's inside the force field, you've got 3 AMSs all lined up, so if one were to go down because the force field's dropped for a few seconds, another one that's sitting right next to it can now then deploy theirs, and just it makes it really hard to
the thing
to really
about that
dislodge
is,
a Duggan defender.
I kind of wish they had a better spawn system. Right now, for example, in an amp station or a tech plant, you have one big building with 3 exits that is fairly easy to camp if you have decent numbers. And the tech plants, they took out the teleporters. I would kind of like to see or even teleporters that just extend to the buildings around that. Just provide more exits. Not to everywhere in the base, because that completely breaks down the feel of a front line. But if you have more than 3 exits from the spawn building, that might help make it a little bit more interesting, especially if you got rid of the possibility for AMSs in the middle of the amp station or tech plant. This doesn't have to be a big no-deploy zone, just a small one to make these more fun, fights, rather than just fighting over these tiny little entrances all the time. We should be fighting outside. Outside fighting's fun.
Well, yeah, and you know what? I think that he's very right. And I think we complained about this on the show when they changed tech plants, about how they removed the teleporters from those spawn rooms, and those were key to holding the tech plants. Yeah. And now they've just made them too wimpy by moving the shields to the outside and removing that teleporter.
Yep, absolutely. All right, he moves on to weapons, and he talks about specifically, I think, the Zephyr is the main one that he doesn't like. And I think as much as I love flying around in a lib and getting tons of kills with the Zephyr, I have to agree with him. I don't think they need to buff AA in any fashion. I think they just need to nerf the Zephyr. For the most part. They already nerfed the rockets on the various escort strike fighters or Empire strike fighters, whatever you want to call it. The Zephyr never got nerfed. And it's really good against infantry, and it's really good against tanks. I think just lowering it to a 3-shot magazine might even be enough, honestly.
That would still, you'd be able to hit hard enough to knock out. There's really thick infantry concentrations, which is the whole point of it, but not so much that you can sit there and spam an entire base. So cutting down on the magazine size wouldn't actually be a bad thing. You know,
cut down the magazine size and increase the time between shots by like half a second, a quarter of a second, and you'll see it be much more balanced. Just that small of a time between shots change, and it'll work better, because that forces the Liberators to stay on station a little bit longer, and it also allows the infantry to move out once the first shot comes.
Yeah, and the main problem is that right now, even a sloppy Zephyr gunner can miss with 4 shots and hit with the other 2, and he gets tons of kills, because especially if there's 2 or 3 infantry or squad moving together or people standing on a point, you've got 6 shots. You only need to hit with 2 of them, really. If you get 2 direct hits, you're good, so you can just miss with the rest and you're okay. That means that, you know, if you try to cut down the magazine, increase the time between shots like you're talking about, it'll force only the good Zephyr pilots to actually do that much destruction, instead of every single Liberator doing that much destruction all the time.
You know what, though? I have to say, some of the onus is on the infantry. There's a reason why any competent infantry force in the world keeps it 10 meters, 10 meters between all their people.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Also, they have air support, so...
Yeah. Well, even without, you're supposed to keep distance.
When you're bunched up with 10 people in just as many meters, you're asking for it.
Yeah. I want to go back just a couple things, because one, I think when we were talking about buildings, we forgot to mention his requested changes to the amp stations. And I just want to say I agree, except I think the closing up those walls in the back should still allow light assaults over. Should still be
the
low
amp
enough for light
station. That's right. Where you're talking about the 2 back entrances to the amp station that don't have shields. I do like the fights for the walls. Those are some of the best fights in the game, and I definitely agree with him that the jump pads should not be usable by the offense. Like I said before, the times when the game feels really good is when it feels like you have a front line. If you know what's like where the bad guy's side is to the north and friendlies are to the south, and 90% of the time you don't have to worry about what's to the south, but every once in a while a light assault or an infiltrator gets back there, that's a fun feeling. It's not certainty, but it's pretty close. But if you have jump pads that can be used by the attackers, there's no front line at all, because the attackers can be everywhere all the time. Every attacker,
and
not just infiltrators.
Here's the really annoying thing. Have you ever had to deal with like one guy who goes and attacks an amp station by himself when your Zerg is somewhere else, and you notice notice that one of the shield generators goes down, so you run over to fix it, but he's already hopped around the base to the other side to do the other generator, and then gets the other. And so you're basically just playing merry-go-round with this jerk who's trying to go for the generators, and you can't catch him because you're trying to undo what he's been doing.
Let me let you in on a little secret here. I mean, I like to call it claymores.
Oh, he's going for the other generator again. And he just died. That's a pretty good point.
Yeah, but still, I'd like to see Light Assault.
It's really annoying, I agree.
To be able to get over the walls, if they close up those things, which they absolutely should, but if they allowed Light Assaults to get over, that would allow for Light Assault rushes and some really interesting tactics that you're not seeing right now. The other thing is, I think a lot of the amp stations are too crowded in by hills and stuff on the side, because really amp stations should be in more flat areas, so you get those battle lines and tanks trying to assault the bases, instead of, you know, they stream in from this side and that side and you get lines and columns. It's much cooler when you actually have a battle line, especially if you've ever fought on some of the awesome Esamir battles where it's like tank line versus tank line, and they're not actually fighting over a base, they're just fighting over territory that controls the path to a base. Because those are some of the most fun. If you could do that with amp stations and make it so that defending them is important, defending them outside the walls in addition to from the walls, that's really cool. And somebody else asked in chat, I think it was Lord Princeps, what do you guys think about making if you had put teleporters in the spawns, but then had teleporter generators in the base?
Oh, interesting. I don't like if the teleporters go too far. Like I said, I like to be able to know where they're coming from, because that frontline feel is really nice.
But for defenders in a base, I don't think they should have a front line within the base.
That's kind of true, I guess.
Because then if you make your objective, for instance, if let's say you have an amp station with a teleporter that allows you to go to the back entrance or to the SCU, then you know that they can come out from those two locations, and it allows them to basically get into the courtyard and secure the courtyard. But if you take out that teleporter generator, then you can have that push that occasionally happens where you actually have a battle line in the courtyard of an amp station.
That's true.
I would say it wouldn't be so bad if they were maybe one-way teleporters for the defenders to get out, and the attackers could knock out the generators to cut down on defender mobility. I think I'd be okay with it maybe that way.
That's not bad, especially if the generators were somewhere near where the teleporters exit, so you have to fight for it maybe. That would be interesting. Yeah. All right, so let's see. What else does he talk about here? He talks about vehicle spam, and actually a topic I want to cover on the next show is the whole vehicle spam thing. I think that could be a whole show in and of itself, so we're going to kind of leave it for that point because, I don't know, maybe we'll see some changes. But obviously there's a lot of people having a problem with that. He talks more about defensible structures, buildings and windows. We just talked about that. Grenade spam. I was kind of surprised by this. I haven't noticed too much grenade spam, only because almost every infantry out there has one grenade when they spawn. Very few people get the grenade bandolier. Have you guys noticed a lot of problems with grenade spam?
Not really. The only times I have noticed the problems with grenade spam is when it crashes the servers.
Well, that and I think the main problem, there would be a problem with grenade spam if they didn't bounce like rubber balls in a different direction
and kill your own
every
guys
time.
most of the time. I think too many people are afraid to throw grenades.
That's true. That's true. But he points out, why would I buy a concussion flashbang or resurrection grenade when they're way more expensive and don't provide me with the kills to feed my kill-death ratio? I think he's got a very important point there.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that the concussion and flashbang grenades were that much more expensive, but apparently they're like 125 each or something ridiculous.
Yeah, and the advantage isn't really there for either of them.
Yeah, he nailed that one really well. There is no incentive to use them when I can. Why would I want to incapacitate someone when I can just kill them for cheaper?
Yep. That's all there is to it. So then he goes on to certifications. We have complained about this to no end.
Touched on that.
So we're not going to cover it too deeply. But his main point is way more of these certifications should be universal. If you unlock flak armor for your heavy assault, every other class that gets flak armor, like the medic, should also just have it unlocked to the same degree. You know, if anything is shared between infantry classes, it should be unlocked. They should all be global, but the class-specific things should obviously not be global. You know, so I completely agree with that. There's no reason to not have C4 unlocked for everybody, especially because it costs so many certs to begin with. If you wanted it to unlock on an individual basis, make it cost 1/5 less, or 1/5 of the cost for each one, basically.
My big one for that would be the nano weave armor, or whatever you personally prefer. Every single class I play, I have to go and spend points to get it up a certain amount of levels,
Yeah.
and yet they all wear it. Why can't there just be one universal for it, like we have with the health packs and things?
Yep.
So
Agreed. It just feels like they're trying to force you. What is it? The boosts. Unfortunately, unlike League of Legends, which I think the vast majority of League of Legends money comes from the skin sales and the champion sales, if people want to get that, it feels like they're trying to make most of the money with Planetside 2 on the subscription because of the cert grind. Like, that may not necessarily be their goal, but that's what it feels like their goal is. It feels like they're making it so hard for us as the players to do anything we want to do that we feel forced to buy a subscription in order to get everything. Because because of what we were just talking about. It just makes no sense why this stuff isn't global. You're using something with the exact same name and the exact same statistics across more than one class, and yet you have to unlock it twice. There's no other game that I can think of that forces you to unlock the same exact thing for different characters. In League of Legends, you can use the same runes for various characters, for example. And when you unlock mastery points, you don't have to unlock mastery points for every single character. Unfortunately, there's some other games that do make you unlock things for every character, like Hawken and MechWarrior Online. That's why I don't like those games. I don't know. Maybe I'm a weird guy. I don't know. Is that weird?
Although, you know what I have to say about that? The MechWarrior Online has less of a grind than Planetside 2.
So even though you have to unlock everything per mech, it's still less of a grind.
Here's the thing. Weapons, because of the way that game is designed, weapons are universal. If you buy a weapon and you take it off a mech, you can put it on another one. So the skill upgrades, those are mech specific because they want to encourage you to use the mechs. But that doesn't take that long to get the first tier, and to buy things doesn't take very long. And the weapons are shared between mechs. So there are things with that game that are shared, and I think they streamlined it better than Planetside 2 did.
I feel like there's so much more you could do to make cosmetic stuff work in Planetside 2. Like one of the things...
Camos being effective?
Well, no, because that's kind of more like pay to win. But what I was thinking of is what Guild Wars 2 started to do, what they were trying to sell in their pay store, and I think what they completely missed out on was they were selling customized kill animations when you would finish off an opponent, and all they wound up doing was giving your character a flag that you could plant that has a cow or a rabbit or something ridiculous on it. What they could have done was sell custom finishing animations for your class. So a warrior with an axe would do this way cool animation where he spins in the air and then comes down and chops the guy's head off. Okay, it's not rated MA, so maybe they couldn't do something like that, but I mean, a guy with a long sword or a great sword could do like Link's, down sword animation from Ocarina of Time / Smash Brothers. You know what I'm talking about? You could get really cool custom animations for finishing moves, and maybe in Planetside 2 you could take that idea and try to run with it. Like, okay, if you kill someone, then you could have some kind of a custom taunt that plays on their screen when they die or something. I don't know. It just seems like you could go down that route. Custom animations that make your character do cooler things, but not things that make them better. Something akin to the skins in League of Legends, but those don't work so well in Planetside because your target is a gazillion feet away. I don't know. Maybe they do work okay. I haven't felt any the same pull that I feel in League of Legends to get a cool looking skin. I don't feel that in Planetside 2.
Or you know what? Here's what's even better. Rather than cosmetic upgrades to your character, what about just cosmetic upgrades to your guns? Because some of the guns look ridiculous, and you spend most of your time looking at your weapon. Some of them look way too similar to one another, and some of them just look silly.
Somebody said, VS, you should be able to upgrade it so that when you kill someone, they disintegrate into a pile of ash instead of just falling down.
That would be awesome. I would pay for that.
There you go. See,
or
right there.
See, there's ideas that are harmless.
Or if your missile launchers, instead of exploding tanks and aircraft, melted them.
Here's another one.
Implode them like into a...
Here's another one. All right. And maybe this is a little bit technologically impossible, but what if when you died, Super Meat Boy style, instead of showing you every death, it shows you every kill you got from a Team Fortress 2 kind of kill cam afterwards. So if you die, because it's not really a kill cam, it's a kill cam for you. It's not revealing positions of enemies. You die, and let's say you got 3 different kills before you died, it would replay those 3 kills in front of you in like slow motion from the perspective of your enemy, or from just from a third-person view, showing your enemy dying in front of you in slow motion and going, "Ugh," and falling backwards. Something that it could just be embellished, something you don't see normally, a custom animation that plays, and it just remembers the location and renders that separately on your screen as a separate sort of movie or something. I don't know. That sounds like it could be really cool. I would pay to see all my enemies die again while I'm waiting to spawn. That would be cool. All right. Anyway, giraffe camo. That solves all their financial problems. The last thing he talks about is combat downtime. And he's specifically speaking on how long it takes for shields to regenerate. This is another one that I was like, I never really felt that this was a problem, honestly. What do you guys think?
No, I think it encourages you to be cautious. That post sounded more like he's somebody who wants to be playing Call of Duty, where you hide for like 3 seconds and your shields are you're back to full health and you're ready to go. This is you're supposed to have more of a careful approach. If you want to play, balls out, just rushing at the enemy, and it works for you, fantastic. But this is supposed to slow down the pace of infantry combat so that you're more cautious and dependent on your teammates. I think if they implemented that suggestion, you would start seeing less teamwork even than if they implemented all of his other teamwork improving suggestions, because there'd be no reason for support. You could just sit there for half a second and your shields are back to full, and then you enter the battle again.
Yeah, I feel like it should be a reward for somebody for hitting someone, forcing them to ground and giving you time to move to a new location or to throw a grenade or
Which is what it does.
Yeah.
Which is what it does. So... Or, no, there is one way, actually, to play with that balls out going forward, not caring much about your shields, and that's if you're a heavy assault with the adrenaline shield, which is why it's so expensive. Because fully upgraded, It gives you 25% of your overshield, basically, back for every kill.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's really... Yeah, so fully upgraded, it can really give you a ton of longevity.
Yeah, I can just imagine running into a room and getting 3 or 4 kills in a row while they're shooting at you, and your shield never gets down to 0.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because that's a third layer of shielding, too, so, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. All right, so that's the end of his whole, rant / criticism, critique, whatever you want to call it here. I agree with many of his points. I am not super hopeful that they are any of them are really going to get implemented. Anything we talked about tonight, Sony's taking so long to do anything. I just don't trust them.
Well, you know what, though? Here's the other thing about his post, which is he very, very interestingly did not discuss one of the things that he is responsible for that makes the game not so fun, which is if you happen to completely lock everybody out of a particular continent, how you discourage fighting on that continent. And he did that during beta with the Enclave and made it absolutely no fun for anybody on the TR side or any other side.
He had his whole side was working, camping the warp gates.
Yeah. So he never addressed that, and I found that kind of interesting that he wouldn't address the fact that once you have lost a region, there is no reason to stay there. And I think that there should be a mechanic for taking it back. Like, completely removing the cost for vehicles, for instance. The resource cost for vehicles would encourage a side to take a continent back once they've been con-locked.
Yeah, somebody asked if there's a dev response to this post. I don't think they have a dev tracker.
They do. I've gone through it since Army Knife had mentioned this is what we were going to be discussing today. I went through last night and I looked, and then I went through again today before the show. So far, no dev has made a reply to this post. We kind of theorized that maybe they were waiting to put out some kind of official comments. Hopefully they'd at least say something in the near future rather than just pretend like it never happened, because it raises a lot of valid points. I mean, obviously enough that we're devoting a large portion of the show about it. The community really should get a response out of this, so hopefully they say something soon.
Yeah, not to mention the hackers remember that I was talking about that fight at the Bastion? while we were fighting at the Bastion, a different part of DigiRev, a different part of the platoon was fighting somewhere else, and we were listening to their command. They were talking about on TeamSpeak, and we heard like 17 people all crash simultaneously. And apparently, this is a known bug where you can force other people to crash out of the game. If you do a specific thing in a specific way, you can force the other team to crash out of the game. And apparently that was being used heavily in that fight, which was happening on the other side of the map. You know, we were listening to their, you know, other squads working on that, and they just had it happen 3 or 4 times that night. It's really absurd.
Yeah, and we've frustrating and aggravating, especially when it's used in a biolab, and I think most of us just stopped playing at that point because it is so frustrating.
Yeah, and it just feels like the progress is so slow right now. Maybe it's just because it's right around Christmas, and I'm guessing that they probably gave the developers a lot of time off there because they've been working like crazy since before November trying to get this game finished, much less, you know, released. So I'm guessing they probably got 2 or 3 weeks of vacation around Christmas, because that's usually how, at least this was back in the day when I read about these, is back in the day you would have a development cycle that worked like, okay, you work normal hours, then when you get like 6 months out, you start working 46 hours a week, then when you get 5 months out, you start working 50 hours a week, and then by the time you're, you know, 2 weeks out, you're working 60-hour weeks, and then right after the game or software launches, they give you 2 or 3 weeks off. Well, this game wasn't done enough to give people 2 or 3 weeks off. And it's an MMO. You have servers that need to be kept in check. You have bugs that still weren't fixed. So I'm guessing that 2 or 3 weeks off was pushed towards around Christmas. So hopefully later on in January we'll see some fixes for the crashing and those bugs that we were talking about, the hackers maybe, and maybe some of these mechanical problems we've been talking about. Hopefully
and I still want to see more detailed patch notes.
Yeah, they were way better in the beta, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
Especially when they put them in that cool Valve style almost. You know, it was written from point of view of someone that sounded like they were GLaDOS, telling everybody what was going on. I like those.
But not even that. Just for the minor updates, I'd like to know what they've changed.
Yep.
So.
All right. Well, that was a pretty long show there, guys, but that was a good one. Any final thoughts?
I think we
covered much
that pretty well. Yeah, I was
gonna
say we tore that post apart pretty well. So I'm trying to see if there's anything we missed, but there really isn't anything I care to bring up. So,
as far as I know, we're one of the few people actually discussing the content of the post. Like I've seen other, like from IGN and other places, you know, they mention that the post happens and they overview what happened, but there's no like discussion.
There's no critique of the critique.
There's no critique or discussion of the ramifications of any of it.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so I guess that's that. I'd like to remind you guys we're going to be recording the next show. Let's see, what's today, the 6th? So on the 20th is the next show that we're going to be recording, show number 3. We'll definitely be talking about any news or updates that happen between now and then. Hopefully we'll see game update number 2, or at least some news about it before that point we can talk about. We've got plenty of other topics in the hopper to talk about in the future. We'll do another good show on that. Next week we're going to be doing a Tales of Tyria, our Guild Wars 2 show. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and check that out. In the meantime, if you could subscribe to the Bridger 15 channel on twitch.tv. I'll be streaming lots of other different things, from Planetside 2 operations with Team Legacy to Civilization 5, like I was doing today. That was kind of a fun thing. We had the chat room talking with us. We were looking and exploring the game and mods that I was using. A lot of people decided to buy the game, actually. We found out that it was on sale this week, so that is pretty cool. So definitely check that out, guys. Tell your friends about the show. We definitely would appreciate it. We want to get the word out. It's now not nearly as big as our Guild Wars 2 show was, or is right now, so definitely appreciate it. Tell them about it. Sound-strategy.net or YouTube channel Sound Strategy Network. For the new conglomerate, I am Bridger.
For the Terran Republic, I'm cutting off the Vanu because I'm East Clintwood.
And I'm Army Knife for the Vanu, and as usual we got cut off by the TR, but you know what? That's just giving us an opportunity to take the Haka back.
Thanks guys for coming on.
Have a good night,
See you in a couple of weeks.
Good night.
All right, there we go. We are done. Yeah, sorry, I screwed up that exit. I should have said something. I should have ended it and pointed one to you first. That's how we should do it from now on.
I think we covered it well enough.
Yeah.
Quick to the Sunderer! Oh, man, everybody's already going. All right, so I'm going to break down all this stuff and upload the Civ 5 things and upload this. We'll get this up on the podcast feed tomorrow. Hopefully be able to advertise it a little bit more. I've got the links that I sent to you saved, so I'll update them every week with the new stuff. So hopefully people will start to see the show a little bit more. I haven't really been promoting it all until today, so we should see a sharp increase in the number of people that know that the show exists. Whether they watch it or not, I don't know, but there will definitely be an increase in the number of people that are aware of the show.
That it is a thing.
There's a thing. Although they may not necessarily like it.
You know what was really funny though was in all the discussion of the team leading and all that stuff, and especially Bridger, you going on about how you need to be telling people what to do every 5 seconds. I was sitting there thinking, man, the Black Square are really easy to lead. Those people just do what they're supposed to do.
Well, it really
thinking more of from the lines of a public squad necessarily.
Yeah, when you're doing a public, because I'll run full pub platoons, and oh my god, when I said herding cats, I meant it literally. It's terrible when you've got 4 squads and you only know like 6 guys, because that's just who you have online at the time.
East.
But when you're running an all-outfit one, it's no big deal.
Okay, so East, imagine, here's what my outfit leader did right after release, like the day after release or 2 days after. He ended up organizing between public platoons and I think he organized about 6 different outfits worth of platoons. So multiple platoons across multiple outfits, all through their various team speaks and everything. He wasn't even playing the game. He was just watching the map and coordinating everybody for about 12 hours.
That's another thing they need. And people have put some really cool mock-ups of what like a platoon leader's view should be. And there's some other things there that we didn't rant about, but that need to be fixed. Like, it's so hard to use the squad and platoon system. Like, you can't allow people to move between squads freely. So as a platoon leader, I constantly have to stop either fighting or stop leading in order to go and answer somebody's request to move them to Delta Squad or something ridiculous. Because, if Delta Squad is one outfit and another squad is another outfit...
Here's the worst.
In the tips, I completely forgot a really important tip. Completely forgot it. Add everybody who's a squad leader to your friends list. Yeah. And then if they have friends only squads, you can go right into the squad menu and request to join instead of them having to invite, which is a fix for that problem you were just talking about to get moved to Delta Squad. Because if they're friends with the guy who's leading Delta Squad, they just leave and rejoin for that guy's squad.
Gotcha.
But speaking of the command channel rant, platoon commanders cannot enter the command channel unless they are a squad leader.
That's another problem,
When we've got all of our squad leaders, the squad leaders are in charge of running their squad. When I'm a platoon commander, I'm busy juggling those 4 squads. I'm not in a squad leader spot. I'm like number 2 or 3 in the squad, of whichever one I'm in. And my squad leader, who I've got appointed for that squad, is busy doing his thing. He's, doing that, where I'm just trying to juggle all the squads.
Yeah, most of the time.
And it sucks that I can't be in the squad command channel.
Most of the time, if you're leading a full platoon, you can't lead a squad at the same time. You're trying to keep track of everything that's going on in the whole fight and keep track of the big picture and send Alpha to take care of this problem and Beta to take care of that problem. You can't be the guy leading Alpha if you need to give instructions to Delta about something that's going on the map. You have to have your eyes glued to that map most of the time. Yeah,
is leader chat still bugged so that if you were a squad leader and then you're not anymore, you still see it?
I don't know. I didn't check that out.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Because that's the only solution I know of to that platoon leader problem, is to make yourself a squad leader and then you give it up to someone else, and I think you can still see leader chat and interact with it, unless they've fixed that bug.
Oh, I forgot to say my solution to the whole fighting versus ghost capping thing is if you had an actual objective, an actual victory condition, it might encourage people to win rather than just cert farm. I forgot about that.
Blasphemy.
I even wrote it down. Anyway. Whew. That was a fun time. All right, I'm going to let Angie back in the room. I always have to kick her out.
Alrighty.
Yeah. All right.
I'll see you guys later.
All right, thanks for coming on.
Yep.
See you in a couple.